But with the House of Representatives back in Washington this week, coming in tonight, members of Congress await the terms of a proposed border security agreement negotiated by the White House and a bipartisan trio of senators. Now, this comes as 25 Republican governors continue their support for Texas Governor Greg Abbott and his continued standoff with the Biden administration regarding the crisis at the southern border. Now, what will come next in this escalating battle between Texas and the Biden administration? Joining me now to discuss this is the Lieutenant Governor of the Lone Star State, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Governor Patrick, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to see you.
Good to be with you, Tony. I was just thinking in your intro when we first met, it goes way back to New Orleans in 2006 when I was running for the Senate. A long time we've known each other.
That's right.
You for everything you do.
Well, I was thinking about that as I was preparing for the program when we first met, and now how you are on a national stage. You know, Texas is a big state anyway.
Yes.
But because of what's been happening in Texas, because of the stand that Texas has taken, I mean, this has become a national issue. You got half the country's governors standing in support with you because this issue is so important. Give us the latest.
So it's risen to this level, Tony, and I'm glad it's risen to this level. So for the entire country to see what's going on and know what the Biden administration is really not doing. So I go back to working on this issue since I was in the Senate back in 2007. And just to give you a small snapshot, back then we didn't have any money in the border security because it wasn't an issue in 05 and 07. I was able as a senator to get $100 million in, and then about $200 million in our budget. And then when I became lieutenant governor, we increased it to $800 million. And now, Tony, it's $4 billion. $4 billion of taxpayer tax money. Now we do a 2-year budget, so that's $2 billion per year. We have thousands of troops there, hundreds of DPS, our state troopers, local law enforcement, and we have seen this border go from being secure under the last year of Donald Trump to now not secure, never secure. It's going to be 8 to 10 million people, Tony, who have crossed into this country illegally since Biden became president, about 2 million a year. And that's the one, remember, Tony, those are the ones that come across the 28 points of entry and surrender. That doesn't count the ones, the gotaways that we see and can't catch, or the ones we never see. Our border between Mexico is the same mileage between Atlanta and Georgia and Portland, Maine. It's a big border that we have to secure. And we finally, with the buoys in the water, with the wire we have, with the container vessels that we have shut them down. In this park, there, that's been all the talk the last week. We had somewhere around 2,000 or 3,000 people a week crossing there a day. A few months ago, and now it's virtually zero. And you have the president that wants to come in and cut the wire and stop us from doing our job. It's outrageous. And I was there Friday to back up our troops, support the troops. The governor was out of the country, so I wanted to be there with them in case the Biden administration showed up. They didn't, and I'm glad they didn't. We didn't want a confrontation. We just wanted to stay out of our business and let us secure the border.
I mean, Governor, this is a lot of money that the citizens of Texas are putting into this to secure not just your border, but by extension, that benefits the rest of the country.
It benefits the rest of the country, and we don't mind standing up for Texas and the rest of the country when the federal government should be doing their job. Excuse me. But $4 billion, I'll put that in perspective. That's bigger than probably 6 or 7 states' entire budgets. and we're doing the job because, look, here's what's happened, Tony. I want you to put this in perspective, and all of your viewers and listeners. Of those 8 million that have crossed, again, that's the ones that we've apprehended. If we think we get 1 out of every 2, that means 16 million have come in during the Biden administration. That would make the state of illegal immigrants the 7th largest state in the country after California, Texas, Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois, the state of illegal immigrants. Even at the numbers of 8 to 10 million, it would be the 7th largest state if they were all in one place. And in that number, Tony, we have gang members, we have drug dealers, we have carjackers, we have kidnappers, we have rapists, we have molesters, we have murderers. And again, these terrorists on the watch list, we've caught nearly 300 terrorists on our watch list. People are coming here from all over the world. We just apprehended someone from Lebanon the other day. They've come here from Syria. They've come here from everywhere you can imagine, from countries that are not our friends. So Biden is letting, and by the way, Tony, the days of families and children, there's still some crossing. These are mostly single men, 18 to 49, I would say, coming in, or 18 to 40 even, coming into this country. We don't know where they're going. We don't know where they are. We don't know what their objective is. But it is dangerous for America.
Governor, we're up against a break. Can you stick around for 2 minutes and come back?
I can.
I've got two more questions that I want to ask you that I think our listeners would want to hear. I want to ask you this question. In fact, I want to play this clip. Because as you know, there's this negotiation going on up here about some border security in this supplemental funding, which doesn't look like there's going to be much of anything. But I just want to here's an example of how the left rewrites history. Play clip number 8, please.
Remember, Donald Trump didn't do a much better job. Presentations reached a 10-year high at the border under Donald Trump. The only reason that fewer people started to show up was because COVID hit and nobody moved anywhere.
That was Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut yesterday on CNN State of the Union. I'll let you address that.
Yeah, just another lie from all the Democrats. And it's a strong word to use, Tony. I don't ever really like to call someone a liar, but I look at Jean-Pierre, the press secretary. She lies every day. Mayorkas lies every day. Kamala Harris and the president have lied about border security. And what is frightening to me is it's one thing when someone lies to you. That's bad enough. But when someone knows that they're lying to them and they keep lying, I mean, when they say the border security, it's just a joke. I mean, look at these numbers. And, I was actually reading Revelation last night, and I'd been reading it for some time. And I've compared Biden and Harris and Mayorkas and Jean-Pierre to the four horsemen of the apocalypse in terms of the fourth. The death rides with them. And Tony, the tragedy of people drowning in the river who can't swim, but Biden invites them to try. The tragedy of the women raped constantly coming across the border and children put into sex slavery. The tragedy of fentanyl being the #1 killer of Americans now, 18 to 40. The tragedy of the police officers and the innocent civilians who have been killed by either drunk drivers who are here illegally or MS-13 or other criminals. All that death is with the Biden policies. Yeah. It's real lives here. And so this border issue, and there's so many things, so many bad policies from the Biden administration, crazy policies. But this is life and death of individuals and life and death of our country potentially if we don't have a border. And we need what this plan that they're talking about to let so many thousands of people in a day is ridiculous. Shut the border down. No one should come here unless we approve of them coming or unless they qualify for asylum, which only about 10% actually do, because no one should have to come to America in the back of an 18-wheeler and suffocate or drown in the river. And the parties need to come together, have legal reform. But the first thing you do before you do that is secure the border, lock it down tight. And in November, when I believe Trump will be elected, next year we'll lock it down tight.
Well, it was that way in his last year. And I went to the border twice. It took him a while to get the right person in control, to get the border shut down. But it was like a ghost
town. Find the money.
The Remain in Mexico policy was working. It was working.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up all of these circumstances and the side effects of an open border.
Yes.
Because this is not compassionate policy. This is policy that's enticing people to take actions that are deadly. And it is, as you said, it's leading. This mother and 2 children that drown. Yes. That's the result of the policy enticing people to come to this country illegally.
Yes, it is. And think about this staggering number. By their own admittance, there are 85,000 children who have crossed the border illegally. They don't know where they are. They don't know where they are. And Tony, when someone crosses the border, and our law enforcement and look, Border Patrol rank and file men and women are with Texas, and we're with them, and they work together hand in hand. And I'm glad that Biden didn't send his top brass down to confront us Friday. That's why I was at the border to back up our troops and to be there with them in case they showed up. We weren't looking for a confrontation. But and if they cut our wire, we have more wire than they have wire cutters. Trust me. And we're going to put wire everywhere along the border. But this entire idea of this impact. I mean, I say all the time, where do these people? Where did 8 million people go?
Right.
Where do they live?
Right.
What do they do for a job? What American jobs are they taking? What schools are they filling up? What emergency rooms are they filling up? We've seen in New York recently they had to displace students out of schools just to put illegal immigrants in it. This is our founders never believed that any president would allow this to happen. And we've had this argument over invasion. We believe it's an invasion.
I believe
it was known you. And it's an invasion by an armed cartel who's in control of the border.
Yeah.
It's an invasion of people here, and all the criminals crossing and the terrorists crossing. There's a reckoning coming if we don't secure this border, and it's going to be bad for America, and it's going to be at the feet of Joe Biden.
That's my final question for you, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. We've heard people say, well, is this leading to a civil war? How does this play out? I mean, we have half the country standing with Texas because they know how serious the problem is. And we have an administration here in Washington that thumbs its nose at the rule of law, which is the foundation of our republic.
Yeah, there will not be a civil war. No one wants a civil war. We don't want a confrontation with the federal government. I don't want to stand down between, I said this when I was on the river the other day. Why would Joe Biden want to come down and have his people against some of the finest young men and women in the country who are in our National Guard and our law enforcement? Why? So there's no confrontation. That whole talk, and the media, not you, but the media's kind of stirred it up. That's not going to happen. When I say a reckoning, this is what I mean. There's going to be a reckoning because when you continue to allow this, we're going to have a terrorist attack from the inside, potentially. We're going to have much more crime to where the people can't take it anymore. We're going to have schools and hospitals overcrowded where the people say, enough is enough. And a reckoning this is going to be straightened out.
Yeah.
And it's going to be straightened out. Heaven forbid, don't want to see it ever by an attack by some of these people who have crossed the border that we don't know, who have terrorist intentions potentially, or it's going to be a reckoning at the ballot box.
Right.
This can't continue. All of his policies, the boys playing girls sports, the take away your gas stove, everybody should drive an electric car. By the way, they don't go very far, as Donald Trump likes to say.
You can't get across Texas in an electric car.
You can't get across, you can't get anywhere, but you go down policy after policy, him stopping the natural gas the other day, exports. He's wrecking America. If you designed a plan to destroy America from our culture, our schools, our healthcare system, our energy, our military, our border, Joe Biden is on that plan.
Yeah.
And for what reason, maybe we'll never know. Maybe it will be the history books that will tell us. But I believe it's the Marxist socialist left that wants to create chaos because we have chaos on the border and our schools and our economy and our culture everywhere. And that's what those who want to kick God out of America to take over a country create is chaos. And that's what's happened. And I pray that that reckoning comes at the ballot box and we take back this country in November.
Well, I want to thank you, Dan Patrick, and I want to thank the governor of Texas as well, Greg Abbott, for the bold stand that you all have taken that has brought the national attention to this issue. And I pray that reckoning does happen at the ballot box as a result. Dan, always great to see you. Thanks so much for taking time to join us today.
Don't mess with Texas.